Beowulf, a story almost as old as the English language itself, an ancient tale of rising to an occasion, overcoming harder challenges, and then finally succumbing to the beasts that your endeavours and survival has created. Ultimately, the story of Beowulf is the story of a hero, and quite simply so, essential to basically all stories that came after it. In English literature at least, it is the building block for pretty much all other stories, whether it be the hero, the anti-hero, or the villain. Today we'll be focusing on the hero's story portrayal within the poem-like story, and how the story of Ellen Ripley perfectly reflects that of the King of Beowulf, with both stories occurring in 3 distinct parts or acts, and what importance it holds to us as the audience. We begin the story in Scandinavia, as a hero of the Geats known as Beowulf travels to a distant kingdom to give assistance to King Hrothgar, King of the Danes. King Hrothgar's kingdom was under attack. Again and again his mead hall in Heorot was besieged by a terrible and horrifying creature known as Grendel. Beowulf is triumphant in defeating this creature, however we must quickly expand on the nature of his success. All others who had come to face Grendel had failed. It is only Beowulf that is eventually able to rise above the beast. Grendel, being a large and monstrous beast, would seem to suggest... With Grendel being a large and monstrous beast, it would seem to suggest that it would take much more than a simple man to defeat. However, ironically, Beowulf chooses to face Grendel completely naked, just as a simple man. This act is very important to how he was successfully able to defeat the creature. The act of stripping down to nothing else but your most natural form and utilising your most advantageous biological traits is something reflected in the character of Ellen Ripley. In the first 1979 film of Alien, Ripley is almost in a way a new incarnation of the hero Beowulf, and while she herself doesn't physically undress to do battle with the Xenomorph, it is the mentally naked version of herself that allows her to be the sole survivor of the Nostromo crew. Ripley is able to achieve this because, much like Beowulf, her most natural self is that of a survivor and a champion, one with the cunning and skill to overcome a beast that would at first glance appear to be a far superior adversary. The heroes of each story prove to be the superior warrior through a match akin to nature's law of natural selection, with the victors of each respective battle being the definitive uber organism. In the second act of the Beowulf story, a new challenge is presented to our champion of Beowulf. After the successful defeat of Grendel, word reaches Grendel's mother. In a rage, induced by her offspring's demise, she sets forth to bring an end to Beowulf and his affiliates. She is able to kill King Hrothgar's most loyal man, and retreats to her hidden lair located underneath a great lake. Beowulf, like Grendel, is able to successfully hunt her down. However, from this point there is generally 2 different variations on the story's progression. The original depicts Beowulf slaying Grendel's mother, with the second, which is a more recent depiction of the story involving Beowulf's seduction by Grendel's mother, which would have great ramifications later in his life. For the purposes of comparing the story to what I would call the trilogy of Alien films, from the 1979 Alien film to Alien 3, I think we are best to stick to the seduction storyline, as it fits more to what we will be exploring. The second act of the story is the 1986's Aliens film, and similarly it also deals with the emergence of a greater enemy for Ripley, the Queen of the Xenomorph Hive, present on LV-426. This mother of the original Big Chap Beast can be compared to Grendel's mother. It's the next challenge that Ripley has to face, and much like Beowulf, she does so successfully. However, there is a drawback to each of their victories. Now remember the two different versions I mentioned of the Beowulf story? Well, Alien would be something closer, as I said, to the latter, with the seduction of Beowulf, but I will have to elaborate a little further on this. In the third and final act of the Beowulf story, we witness the hero return to his homeland of Geatland, and is anointed the locale's new king, with a whole 50 years passing by. By this time, Beowulf had become an aged, yet still fearsome warrior. Eventually, in the original tale, an unknown man steals from a dragon's keep and so awakens the beast to rain fire out of anger at the trespasser and thief of its belongings. Beowulf fights the fire-breathing beast and is again for the final time able to overcome the challenge laid before him, but not without the help of a young nobleman and not without having to pay the ultimate price for his victory. You see, Beowulf had finally met his match with the dragon, and so succumbed to his fatal injuries before passing the kingship to his brother-in-arms, the one who had assisted him in slaying the beast. After his death, he is cremated by his attendants, and a tower on a headland is erected to stand as remembrance to him and who he had been. Now, in the later version of the Beowulf story, as I mentioned before, the great fire serpent was actually the offspring of Beowulf and the mother of Grendel. As in one version, before her death, she successfully seduces him in order to achieve her final revenge for the death of her son. Knowing that only something begat of Beowulf would be capable of defeating him. In a poetic way, it carries on this idea of natural selection. Beowulf had proven superiority over the Grendel family line, and so only the evolution of them and him could defeat him. Now, how are these events tied to the third installment of the Alien trilogy? Well, there is a lot of connections actually. In Alien 3, we actually discover that Ripley has been subject to facehugger implantation during her departure of LV-426 at the end of the events of Aliens. This is the seduction. Whilst Ripley herself isn't directly seduced by the Queen Xenomorph, you can't deny the thematical links between these events. The Queen Xenomorph's facehugger is what caused a chestburster to develop within Ripley, in a way being the unwilling seduction of Ripley. If Ripley had have left LV-426 instead of being the hero and saving Newt, this probably would not have occurred. But she chose the hero's path, and so the seduction of power and heroism was complete, much like it was in the Beowulf story. In Alien 3, there is another xenomorph born from a dog in the prison facility of Fury 161, and it's this xenomorph that is the embodiment of the dragon serpent. It is even called as such by the prisoners, with its body coursing with acidic blood and not fire. There are many similarities here to be drawn. Ripley does battle with this dragon until it's only her and one other, prisoner Morse, remaining. Morse takes the spot of the king's brother-in-arms. Together, Ripley and Morse are able to defeat the alien dragon, but Ripley is already mortally wounded and destined to die by the chestburster developing within her. Knowing her death approaches and making one last attempt to keep the creature from ever returning, she sacrifices herself to the molten lead. With the help of Morse, she is able to cremate herself and the specimen held within her. After these events, Morse leaves the facility with the Weyland-Yutani escort and is allowed to go free. In Ripley's honour and in remembrance of the events, he makes a short story that covers everything that had unfolded on Fury. His story details the horrific nature of the beast, the struggles they endured, as well as the losses and the motives of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. The seduction of Beowulf is the implantation of Ripley. Defeating the dragon is doing the same to the Xenomorph. Inevitably, both heroes fall victim to their final challenges. But what is the point of having these heroes if evil can and will bring about their end? What is the reason for stories like these? And what is the reason they have gone so long unchanged? There's not that much difference between these two stories, besides from a few extra facts thrown in and a little bit more detail added to each story. The story of Ripley really, as shown, isn't that different from Beowulf's. Why do we as a society cling to these ideas? There is a multitude of explanations, but I think the simplest is heroism itself. The idea that these heroes do exist, that they are out somewhere, protecting us, watching over us and keeping the forces of evil at bay. It makes us feel safer, it makes us feel protected, and it eventually makes us envy them. We begin to see ourselves as one day being able to be as heroic as these heroes, and like those that have come before us. To provide safety for others, to care for those around us, and to keep harm from befalling them. Ultimately, these stories show us that even though the heroes are great, they are still human. They still die, but their legacies do not. They are carried onward and forward by those who have picked up the torch, whether it be Morse spreading the word of truth through the galaxy, or a new, younger king to protect the Scandinavian lands. Both of our heroes are destroyed by fire, but given immortalization in the monuments constructed post their demise. From the stories they leave behind, others can learn from their hardships, their triumphs, and their inevitable ends. And if their purpose is carried on by those who come after, then these heroes never really fell at all, but all but transcended the physical and into the supernatural, the immortal, and most importantly, relatable. The fact that Ripley could be me, or it could be you, or it could be anyone willing to make a stand and say no in the face of adversity. I really hope you all enjoyed this video, as it was quite different from what I usually do on the channel, so please let me know if you would like to see more videos like this one, where we can talk really in depth about the nature and thematical elements of the Alien franchise. Before I go, I just wanted to let you guys know about the merch store called ACHERON's Colonial Marketplace. Here you can pick up a variety of ACHERON and Alien themed merch from 3 distinct product lines, including shirts, hoodies, mugs, blankets, stickers, bags, and even phone cases. So if you want to support the channel and look good doing it, pick up some ACHERON merch. But what other videos would you guys like to see? If you have any ideas or have any questions you would like answered, please meet me down in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and go check out Project ACHERON on Twitter and Discord. If you want to support me further, you can become a patron where you can get access to early and behind the scenes content, the monthly and Alien Day giveaways, as well as the patron-only engraved set of items. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Until then, this is Project ACHERON, signing off.